Hello. I think I'm doing this right again. I guess we'll give it a second for people to come in. For those of you watching this later, probably the easiest way will be to look for me to wave as we're putting this all together. All right. Okay. Help. I believe we'll get started here. More people can obviously join in or watch this later. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming. Want to wish you welcome. It's been a while since we've done one of these. We do want to try from now on to do more of these more often, to where we don't have such a delay. I also do want to start out by apologizing for a slight delay in communication in the past couple months. It was mainly because as we were trying to make the push for the giant size launch and things began happening, both good and bad, and many factors taking place until we had news really that was concrete to share. We couldn't share. That's one of the first questions many of you have asked, as what are the delays and the causes of the delay, and where did it come from? As we stated, the delay this time was distribution. That was the primary delay for us. Our first delay was one distributor, primarily, who needed more time for their mechanism. They kind of got their stuff, for the most part, fixed and situated, we believe, and we thought everything was fine with the other. In fact, the numbers came in. It looked like everything was, was great. And then we started getting some reports that things were going awry. We began trying to. One of the questions people also have asked is why didn't we just finally? Why did it take so long for us to notify everyone? And that's because what we were doing the entire time was we did not go to press, because had we gone to press, we'd have really been in trouble, big time. Instead, what we did was I always try and work with contingency plans. China is by far the cheapest printing source. That's through my other company, Active Media Publishing. However, we do have some domestic sources where, if there's a delay, if there is a need for more expedient printing, it costs us obviously more, but not too terribly much more. And we were looking at that. We were also looking at, could we salvage even half of the month of December, or what could we do? Maybe doing 2 books in a week, or anything we could do, we were trying to sit there and do, and it wasn't until right before we put out the announcement that we had the final word and final decision. So this isn't a case of us trying to do anything. It's just we were trying to do everything we could to make the launch. But again, as we stated, it was outside of our control. It's unfortunate. It sucks. But as I'll get back to later in the report, there's some good things, and actually I think overall we'll be fine. For one thing, how this affected advertisers. That's one of the questions that people had. The November delay actually hurt us more than anything. We had a lot of really great advertisers who, especially in the video game sector, who, if you know anything about video games, most of the video games came out in November. So all of those advertisers went away from the November to the December launch. So we had to quickly try and fill that. So in reality, the November versus December launch hurt. What we've had to look at and what we're finalizing, it looks like April is when it'll have to be. And to give you guys a quick breakdown, part of the issue in specific was how the ordering system was handled by Diamond. Now, I'm not yelling at Diamond, no bad blood. We're working with Diamond. Mistakes were made on how it was presented to the retailers and how fulfillment and things like that. We just needed to work with them in a better way. So what we're working out right now is to where it's more of an opt-in type of thing and far less confusing to the retailers, because there was just a lot of confusion on how the ordering system, how the fulfillment would be taking place, all this sort of stuff. So we're basically removing any of the mechanisms that could be confused, and instead simply going with a very common sense approach. One we had suggested early on, but they were trying to work it into their old system of doing stuff. This is kind of one of the perils of doing something completely new. This is completely new. No one's done this. It also has led us to, we're working on a better shipping mechanism to work with them that will actually save us quite a bit of money overall. So that's one of the nice things that it led to, but not the nicest. Again, the way their catalog works, the next spot open is for book shipping in April. So we've had to shift gear. That actually doesn't hurt us in the advertising sector a lot, because in reality, January and February are pretty much, even honestly the last half of December is not the greatest for advertising, but January and February, everyone's pretty much done their ad buys, and so this gets us back into a better cycle with the advertising. Some interesting things have occurred, and it's all part of the partnership stuff. So I'll come back to the advertising. Trust me, if you can hang on till the end, the really cool stuff is coming up. It's awesome. Let's see some more of your questions. Okay, you've got Are the ads still valid? A lot of the advertisers, by the way, a lot of the advertisers are still coming on board. We didn't really lose anyone. In fact, a lot of the ones we lost in the November are now back in the mix, and in a better way. And again, that'll make sense in a minute. Are advertisers purchasing multiple page ads? Yes, and we'll talk about that in a second. Were new members added to the ad sales team? Yes, actually, Chris Longo brought on one guy who comes with a huge Rolodex, and he's bringing on some more people as well. They're doing really, really good stuff. I'm basically in contact with Chris Longo on a daily basis now. We're working in tandem, closing a lot of these deals. So, and they're actually pretty revolutionary. But again, I'll get back to that in a minute. What is the district? I don't understand some of the questions. If on the factoring, I'll explain. Let me get into the factoring. I briefly mentioned factoring before. We did not. We were hoping to do the factoring, but earlier, but the nature of what was going on when we got hit with the toys, the other delay, we wanted to make sure everything was fine. We've got them all set up. Factoring is fairly simplistic. It's simply a small discount on the life of the note. I myself have done marketing work back when I owned a marketing company for a large number of the factoring sources that are out there, and these guys are hungry for anything factorable. But at the same time, it puts us on the when we factor a note, it puts it on us. So we just there was some a little shakeup with the November thing, and then as we were rushing to get the December and getting all of that put together and right down to the wire, we started discovering the issues with Diamond, and so we did not proceed with the factor just in case, and we're glad we didn't. With this new launch, we'll have ample time. We do not foresee any of the same issues occurring. We now know where the kinks are, and we'll get that all situated. It sucks, but again, it all sometimes, you know, they say, as the saying goes, things happen for a reason. Doesn't make it great, but it'll make sense in a minute. Let's see. One of the, let's see. All right, so some of these questions don't really make sense. More revenue questions. Revenue, again, where the revenue comes from, what's keeping us afloat. Part of it will be in that what I'll reveal later. Let's jump into something really cool that's happened. It's Magica on Hulu. Magica, we've been working on this for a while. Part of the holdup was had to do with Hulu is a little bit of a tough nut to crack. It's all new. It's technically owned by most of the major networks, so getting into there, especially since they have some of the best CPMs out there. I mean, just phenomenal CPM rates. If we could get these CPM rates on our print ads, we'd be sitting pretty. So they have CPMs up to like $50 CPM, which is unheard of. CPM, as a reminder, that's the cost per thousand. M stands for, it's for thousand. So for every 1,000 views of an ad, you get $50, for instance. So to play with those numbers, you can make quite a bit of money. We do not fill those ads. Those are filled entirely by Hulu. They have their own ad sales team, and it's basically based on traffic. So one of the things we wanted to do from the beginning, as we were negotiating all this stuff, is you have two types of Hulu. You've got Hulu on the web, and then you have Hulu Plus, which requires a subscription. Well, we don't care if someone's on the subscription. We just want more people viewing. And in specific, when you go, so we made certain that we were on for everything. So whether you're a subscriber or not, everyone can watch our content for free. So Magica, it's a feature-length film, so it has multiple commercial breaks, and anywhere from 1, 2, 3 commercials per break, average of around 20 or so commercials. Could be more, could be less. It really just depends on their fill rate right now, and that's all through Hulu. But easily 20 if someone watches from the beginning to the end. Now, here's what's great. On the online and in Plus, no matter whether or not someone watches the entire thing, the very first thing they see before they get to our actual cartoon is the first commercial break. So that means every single person who clicks over, we make revenue. Now, what are we really good at? We're really good at driving traffic. We have, through our cartoon, our comics rather, through our ability to advertise, we know where to advertise for the lowest amount of money to get the maximum amount of clicks. I have a long-standing, before all of this, after Marvel, I worked at Priceline.com in the early days, all the way through to owning Total Solutions Marketing, which was a full-service marketing firm in Central Florida. Very familiar with how to drive traffic online. That's one of our core competencies. That's how we were able for Wayward Sons to build up such a massive audience, for instance, and then replicate that kind of audience with Exposure and Bonsai Girl and Katrina and Porcelain and all of the various comics, Buzzboy, etc. We were able to replicate because we know how to drive traffic. And the more traffic we drove to our network, the more we could drive outward as well. So that alone is great. Add into that, we also acquired Comic Genesis, which has a ton of traffic on it. We also have KeenSpot behind us, and we'll talk more about Mark here in a bit. Needless to say, our capacity to drive traffic to online, to the free, to watch Magica for free is immense. And whether or not they watch the whole thing doesn't matter. Now, we make more if they do watch the whole thing. And that then falls to how good is it? Now, what's great is not only that, But Hulu itself has mechanisms for recommending based on trending, based on what other people are watching. So by virtue of us driving a ton of traffic to the show, other people then can discover that we're not even marketing to. So because we can build the traffic to Magica, other people can discover it as well. So our hope is that this can be a significant revenue stream. And it's not a one-off thing. This isn't like you put out a book and it sells whatever it's going to sell and it's gone. This becomes a continuous stream. This is why when we first mentioned about Magica, we felt that this was kind of the launching point. Further, when the giant size line launches, a whole new audience of 1 million new consumers every month on Magica, plus all of the online people that come from that we then further direct, it becomes a steady, continuous audience that we can direct to watch this movie. But this movie is just the beginning. We prove that we've always had a philosophy of crawl, walk, run. So for when we started the whole concept of giant size line, it really began with the online model. So we wanted to test and see, will people come to read comics for free? Yes. Can we make money off of advertising on that? Yes. Can we sell products to these people who watched it for free? Yes. Can we license these properties and make them into movies and video games and things like that? Yes. So we've proven each of those concepts before we went to take it to the next step, which has always been the giant size line. So the online was the smaller scale, lesser cost version of the online, the offline print, which is the giant size line. So with that in tow, what are our plans for Hulu? Well, Hulu is just another medium for us. Not only can we do animated versions of our existing comics, which thanks to our friends in Glass House and Cutting Edge, they already do that for other comic book companies. So that becomes an easy process that for very little money we can add more content quickly. But we also have a huge storehouse of pre-existing materials that we have access to that's already done. In some cases, they need to just be dubbed from another language, and so forth, that once we've proven this model, we have the capacity to take it to the next level and bring in all of this content. And again, each and every one of these within this channel is a recurring, constant, consistent revenue stream. So this goes beyond just one. Magica is our test. I'm excited about what can happen with Magica. I think that Magica will be awesome. I happen to love the movie. My kids are very skeptical. They're 7 and 10, and they both love the movie. All of the kids who have seen it, that we've done tests with, have reacted very well to it. Is it Disney caliber? No, it's our first outing. Even Disney wasn't Disney caliber. It's first try. So by today's standards, but it's a really good movie. It's very cute. It's got a great story, and we would love for it to be the launch of a Magica series, for instance. We've got so many in line that. So the Hulu deal was very, very good. that we could finally announce it. To give an example, it's another instance where we would love to tell you guys, hey, this is what we're working on, this is what we're in negotiations with and stuff, but sometimes we have our hands tied on certain things. But I'm going to kind of, tonight, I'm going to break that rule a little bit when I tell you guys some of the stuff coming up. Let's see. Let me jump into. You guys have a question, some investor questions. Is there going to be a reverse split within the next 12 months? We have had that come up numerous times, and we've looked at you know, what would happen with the reverse split, and we looked down that road, and as I see it, it would hurt you guys, is all it would do, and we don't ever want to do that. You know, could in a future point it makes sense for all of us? If it can make sense for all of us, somewhere down the road where it won't hurt, then we'll look at that. But why would we want to hurt you guys? We're not trying to do that. Is it possible to have a shareholder update every quarter? Yeah, we can try and do more of these types of updates more frequently. Maybe whenever significant things happen, maybe they won't have to be so long. But needless to say, yeah, we recognize that we do need to be communicating more with you guys. Sometimes, you know, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. It kills us. We hate that. I know I personally hate that. I hate to ever feel like I've let you guys down, and I work all day, every day, trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. Let's see. Talking about paying off notes, we can always visit that. There are not very many notes left. There are, just to give you guys an idea, there are only 4 holders out there left. I can even give you guys the names. It's there's JSJ, who they haven't really done a whole lot in a year. They're kind of they've got something like 400 million shares reserved, you know, which is crazy, or 300 million, something like, I don't know. It's a crazy amount. They're not really doing a lot. What is it? Well, no, that's JMJ. JSJ has like 1 tranche left, and then they're out. I think it's pretty much the same way with Chicago Venture or something like that, I think they're called, and LG Capital. So that's it. You know, and these are the ones that were already pre-existing, who just had some other tranches, and then that's it. We have not taken on any new notes, as we said we wouldn't, and we've stuck to that. So as far as that goes, you know, we're not going down that road. Okay. You know, and these are the ones. Hold on. Ah, sorry. So I was looking at some other stuff. All right. Why don't the board members speak to the investors via Facebook or videos? Well, the other board members can, and quite, for instance, David Campetti has put out other videos, given some previews and stuff like that from time to time. So certainly not shy there. Chris Crosby, that's just not his thing. Mark Fischbach obviously does. Eisen and Amy, they're more behind the scenes people, but you know, maybe as time goes by, we'll revisit that. Why do we have to be on different pages on the launch? Is everyone in sync? Everyone's in sync. Every move that is made with regard to the company, the board is pretty much consulted on everything. We make the decisions together. Everyone's informed. You know, board resolutions occur. We're in constant contact either via email or phone calls. Sometimes I have to call like each one of them individually and talk. Other times we've had conference calls. Most often it's through emails, going back and forth, letting everyone know. So that definitely. How can we shareholders help Red Giant succeed? Well, first off, thank you. We love you guys. That's a really nice question. You know, I can't speak as far as, you know, investing. Obviously, that's against, you know, I'm not soliciting. Let me let me give those disclaimers. Nope, not soliciting now or ever for investing. You know, if you're as fans, if you want to help spread the word, obviously, you know, the Hulu thing is a really big thing, really big initiative, a really big push for us. So anything like that. I do want to comment. I've seen that there's, you know, the Facebook fan page for the investors and stuff. I think that that's awesome. You guys do a really, really good and incredible job on doing that. You know, it's an amazing thing that you guys have done, and I'm really proud of you guys. You know, I see comments. We look from time to time. I you know, have to laugh at some of the comments. You know, I realize that quite often you guys are upset with me. And I'm fine to take that. You know, if by virtue of being the CEO, you know, the buck stops here. The target's painted on my back. You know, I'm doing the best I can. I'm not perfect. You know, I'm not making excuses. You know, I know that there are times when I let you guys down, and I'm sorry. I'm doing as much as I can, as fast as I can. I'm working all day, every day, and hopefully what I reveal in a little bit will make sense on that. You know, but I do see like a lot of fun personalities on even like the Investor Hub and board and stuff. One in particular, for instance, Tony, it goes by Tony Stark, does some really great posts and due diligence. I'm not confirming it or anything, and I know that he's not exactly, he or she, I don't even know, not happy with me, but you know, we care about each and every one of you, even the ones who hate my guts right now. You know, I'm trying to make it better. So as far as investor concerns, that's what I want to get through. Gaming questions you guys asked about Bandai Namco. Yes, we're working on that right now. They were delayed in launching their product that this is going to be a skin of for the Wayward Sons IP. That I can reveal. We're working on a Wayward Sons mobile app. It's free to play. It's based off of one of their IPs as the engine. We're in discussion with them. I've been doing extensive testing with them as well on it. So that is being worked on right now and developed. We have a ton of assets that we've got. And then there were some minor internal things with their company that's, again, beyond our control, where it was the programming company that was doing, I don't even know, I can't get into it, but Bandai as the publisher is working with them on smoothing all that stuff out. But they all love it. We love them. Phenomenal partnership there. Are there any other gaming updates or plans beyond Bandai Namco? A ton, and I'll talk about them in a second. Here it's talking about, will Markiplier be involved with gaming or share REDG? Well, let me jump into talking about Markiplier for a second. As many of you know, Mark Fishbach, aka Markiplier, by his YouTube channel name, came on to the board of directors. He also gave a capital infusion as part of that. So he didn't buy a board membership. It was kind of a 1-2 thing. He wanted, basically, when he approached us and we were talking, he wanted skin in the game in a sense, and it just really made sense. It helped us. We certainly could, using capital is always positive. Now we haven't spent all of it of the capital. Instead, what I want to focus on is to explain kind of our relationship with Mark. We met Mark, I think it was 3 years ago, at San Diego Comic-Con. He was there with his brother, Thomas, who does the webcomic Two Kinds, which is a vastly popular webcomic that I think at the time it broke a record on Kickstarter for several $100,000 in raising. So Mark was just starting this YouTube thing, and quite frankly, it seemed like a crazy idea. And we sat there over the course of years of him always coming back. We always gave him a spot at our table, and he would help us. He'd MC our panels at San Diego, which is great because I hated doing it. I sucked at doing it, and he did a really great job there. We watched as he grew this business, and we felt kind of a bit of pride, because here's this, we get to watch this empire being built by someone we know and care about. And at the same time, he was watching us and we were watching him, and he's a very creative, very smart individual. We've always been impressed with, and very dynamic. So when we were talking about him coming on board, it just made sense. If you really look at who the members of the board are, each of us have our own basically specialties that we bring to the table, and that's what's important here. Amy and Eisen have all of the television and film expertise. They were instrumental. Could not have done the Hulu deal without Amy and Eisen. For instance, we'd be nowhere without them. Same thing with Last Blood. Same thing with which is rolling along. Can't really talk too much about that. Sorry, that's not something I can talk about yet, but it is plodding along. Sometimes some things move really quickly in Hollywood, other things take forever. We're very happy with where that is. But again, Amy and Eisen are working nonstop on that front. So that's their expertise. Meanwhile, Chris with KeenSpot and a lot of the stuff, one of the greatest researchers out there, finds out some of the most amazing stuff. Very, very brilliant mind as well with Chris Crosby. And then we've got David Campetti, who, he actually kind of started the snowball on this when he approached me about actually building it as a company. And there's, I actually cursed at him and told him, darn it, cleaning it up a bit, you're the only person I would consider doing this whole thing with. So, having him where he is in managing the comics side, which is really the backbone on the creative, he brings a wealth of experience there. So what Mark brings in is this new media, this world of YouTube and social media and stuff in a way that none of us really have. That's not our expertise, and he's proven himself in these, as well as he's a very creative guy. Like I said before, both he and his brother have wonderful ideas for new creatives and stuff that they can bring to the table as partners and and creators. So they're also bringing in new intellectual property as we all have. So it really made sense to bring him on board, and we couldn't be happier. He's a phenomenal addition. One of the big questions here is, will he be working to promote like Magica and the games and all these sorts of things? I called him before the conference, and the answer is absolutely. He has his Facebook, his Twitter, his YouTube channel, all of these resources. Of course, he's going to utilize to help promote and build audience for us. We all bring, every one of the directors, that's the great thing, we all bring something extra to the table, whether it be David Campetti's Glass House Graphics, which has hundreds of creators that we've had access to, although we're not limited to, and not all of our creators are from Glass House, but it's nice to have that resource. Active media, for instance, on printing. Yes, it's the lowest cost printing out there. High quality, wonderful stuff. You guys saw the actual books on Free Comic Book Day. It's printed in active media. The costs are substantially lower than doing it here. But if push comes to shove, if we, as I said earlier in the piece, yeah, we have also some U.S. printers and Canada printers and stuff like that are not part of activity. So these are resources, not crutches. So KeenSpot, intrinsic value, all of these things are what help and in so many ways the Red Giant venture. So Mark is no different. So he fits right in, and we all are of the mind of rolling up our sleeves and making sure that this works. Let's see. Other movie news. All I can say is stay tuned. There's a lot going on. We have, I can't even count how many projects are in negotiations right now and development, and some really cool developments on all the fronts, whether it be, like on the question here, Wayward Sons, Katrina, Exposure, dual identity. Let's just say, yeah, everything's being worked on. Sorry that sometimes it'll be like Hulu with Magica and seem to come out of nowhere, but that's the nature of Hollywood, and we have to kind of follow those rules. How do we co-produce these movies? We are on co-producing, as with pretty much any film out there. We're co-producing with these. It allows us varying degrees of control, varying degrees of participation, but what we're not doing is falling into the same problems that basically Marvel faced and regrets in a lot of their early development. It's a much cleaner, better situation. So we're not giving the baby out with the bathwater. Are there any new TV deals in the making? Yes, I can answer that. Yes, there's a lot of new things in development. We'll let you know as we can. When will the internal ads for a Magica movie be sold? We're looking at that. We are also, yes, we are looking at Magica being available on DVD. We're exploring that, doing DVD and Blu-ray. We crawl, walk, run. So, let's see how everything goes on Hulu, and then that makes things a lot easier there. Are we looking to get Magica on Netflix also? Netflix is like a one-off type of deal. They pay you, and that's what you get. What we love about the Hulu deal, now I'm not saying never, but what we love about the Hulu deal is with Hulu, we have the ability to kind of build our own traffic and our own revenue stream and a little bit of more control. So we're exploring Hulu first right now, primarily. What steps have been taken to prevent SEC sanctions as it happens? Well, the SEC sanction, it stinks that it happened. In fact, it kind of surprised a lot of people. I really don't want to talk about it too much, needless to say, because, who knows what SEC might get upset about. It was something that we didn't catch until it was too late, but we did catch it, and we did rectify it, and the SEC said, in short, okay, there's no problem, but if, here's the minimum fine. And we could fight them, but, it would cost way more than the sanction itself. And then if you lose, then, it was way too many problems. So, unfortunately, it's a traffic ticket, in essence. So we deal with it. Giant size line digital downloads. The way the digital downloads will be working is simple. There'll be two tiers. One is after the line launches, it will be available in an app form 2 ways, and I'll tell you guys about that later. That's a future release, but needless to say, it'll be available in digital form, and that's part of the new developments going on right now, and it'll also be available on the web as a web comic. How many books are printing for the American Library Association deal? That's the Medusa's Daughter. I've got them in the warehouse, and I think think we have like 3,000 of each version. So it's total of, there are 3 versions, or no, 2 versions of each. There's it's a very multi-faceted deal. Medusa's Daughter is interesting because we're doing something a little unique. It comes out as a novel, a graphic novel, so again, words novel, and then an illustrated book. The way we did them as both collectible version, mass market, and then we also did a library edition. So for the 2, the illustrated book, what we do is we give it away for everyone who orders 1 of each. So it's kind of a 3-pack, buy 2 get 1 free. It was a very low cost illustrated novel type of thing. So and the purpose of that is to use with schools and libraries as a teaching aid to get kids who have specifically learning disabilities to utilize the illustrated novel to try and get kids and help kids on learning how to read and the enjoyment of reading. So that's something headed up by Stephen Park and Jonathan Fuqua, who are the creators of that. And I think it's a very awesome deal there. What is the status of Japan Needs Heroes? We've got like 1 page. We're waiting on the color corrections, and then it's compiling in the next week or so and going off to print. So pretty much done. What changes are you planning management committees to? I already talked about that. Why is the main web page never updated? Well, I'll pass that along to Chris. We do update, but it does need a little bit more of an overhaul. We are doing a major overhaul to our own branded website, in addition to KeenSpot. So we'll be unveiling that very soon, and that'll be part of the launch. So it'll be Red Giant. I can tell you the URL. Right now it just goes to redgiantentertainment.com, but in the future, redgiantcomics.com, which we also own the domain, will be the landing site for our comics line. Now I want to jump into the main event, because I wanted to kind of give you guys this idea. So as we were going through all this stuff with Diamond, some interesting things began to happen. We were approaching one of our bigger advertising partners about doing something new and unique with their ad. Rather than doing just simply one page or a double page spread, what we know works best is content-driven advertising. So we approached this company about doing, what if instead of doing, something small, because this is we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar multimedia company. So this is the level of a company with an immense library of intellectual properties. We said, you've got all these intellectual properties. They're not, some of them are dormant, some of them do not have the audience that they could or should. What if we, rather than simply doing an ad for whatever XYZ is out in the market right now, what if we did a serialized sequential story that runs, that each month runs across the giant size line. So for instance, say 4 or 5 pages every week. So part 1 on the first week in giant size action. Part 2 of the story would be in giant size fantasy the second week. Part 3 in giant size adventure, and part 4 would be giant size thrills. So by the time you're done, you'd have either 16 to a 20-page story in our comics that for the first time that at least that we've ever seen, someone serialized across a line. Now this really, really resonated with this company, and as we were talking, it actually grew. So instead of simply and kind of a relationship form. So instead of not just doing that as a one-off on whatever intellectual property or whatever thing they're doing, they said, well, what if this was the launch of a ongoing series? Because as we've said before, the giant size line has always been, we've looked at it as an incubator, an intellectual property incubator. That's the true power of it. You know, yes, we make money, really good money on the advertising, that's great, but where the real money comes from is from the ancillaries, the licensing, the development, and all these sorts of things, whether it be video games, toys, movies, television shows, apparel, you name it, you know, lunchboxes. So here's this company with a library that is just massive, and they're saying, how about we partner together, and not only are we your advertiser, but you then become our publisher. And to sweeten the deal even further, they get a first look deal on all of our properties for development through their multimedia channels. Now, this has gone pretty far down the rabbit hole. I'll be flying out for more meetings and stuff on this. This isn't pie in the sky. This is coming to fruition. But again, this is a multi-billion-dollar multimedia company, and it's such a perfect fit for us. So we're extremely excited for this relationship as it's developing. There's a lot more to it that we'll be revealing. It's super exciting. But additionally, what this did was it allowed us to look at this concept and then reapproach a lot of the other advertisers and companies out there that that have intellectual properties about doing something new and unique. And by the way, we're not talking about, you know, just a one-off one month. We're talking about, with this first partner company, it would be every month. So a new intellectual property every month that would then later spawn another comic that we share revenue on. So build an audience that we make money off of on their advertising, but it further helps to pay for the launch of a comic in the sense of building an audience. And that's a pay comic, not a free comic. Licensing is one of the best money makers in comics, and this is a way we have suddenly developed a tool for licensing that no one else offers, with having a launching point like this. So that's then allowed us to relook and part of what Chris Longo and his team and I are working on is there are a lot of companies. This isn't an exclusive thing with this partner. There are a lot of companies out there we can do serialized, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 pages in a row. And they're all responding gangbuster. So all big companies and stuff. Now, they're not the same level of partnership, but many of them are also likewise interested in us developing an ongoing comic out of this. Company like IDW, if you guys want to do some due diligence on, that's their bread and butter, is licensing. And Dynamite does a ton as well. Boom is another company which does a lot of these licenses. Dark Horse. So you can see it's a nice revenue generator, but we can build huge audiences and stuff like that. And there's even talk with that one partner about us doing some of the media that they don't do. So it's a really great opportunity there. And what we love about this is this further means overall when you've got like a 64 to 72 page book, we never really liked the fact that for the comics, so many of the pages were going to have to be advertising. By doing them as sequential stories, as we start trying to add more of those, it cuts down on the ratio of content to ad immensely. So we're in essence providing way more content than ads. Even though they are technically ads. Now, if you're asking yourself, well, why would companies do this? It's really quite simple. It makes a lot of sense. First off, it's tax deductible. So because it's advertising, so it comes out as a tax deduction. It is in a bigger audience than they ever could reach in other magazines and stuff. And content ads have the greatest buy-in out there. That's why if people are engaged, then they buy. That's why to show you G.I. Joe cartoons or Transformer cartoons and stuff are so important to the toy line, because they're content, and yes, they make money on their own, but more importantly, they build up an audience, and those kids then go out and want to buy those toys. So it's the same basic principles. So this is in essence our big thing. As the instant, most likely it's not going to be us that puts out that release. It will most likely come from them, or in a joint release, or things like that. But believe me, the instant that release goes, everyone will be quite happy. I'm loath usually to talk about stuff like this in the future tense, but I did want to give you guys some particulars, some very specifics on it, just so you see, when we say we're hard at work behind the scenes, it's not just words. We're going all over. We're, for the Toys R Us deal, I was flying back and forth to New York, on the phone constantly. These are, and for this deal as well, it's a constant daily occurrence that we're working, all of us, all of the board is working for Red Giant. So, and it's always on big stuff, and we do come through. It may take longer than we anticipate, and we're sorry for that. You know, but we will come through for you guys. That's our daily affirmation. That's what we pledge. That's what we spend all of our time doing, is working daily to come through for all of us, because we're not in this to build something for a day. We're not in this to grab and run. There's no dumping. We've not sold a single share of our stock. You know, someone, now I'm going to make a statement as I wrap this up. One of the last questions I have here, and sorry if I missed some of these questions. There's just a lot. Hopefully I've covered most of them. But one of the questions that someone asked me is, I know I've made in previous statements that I personally wouldn't consider selling any shares unless it was for $1 share price. Now again, all disclaimers out there. This is Benny only personal. Someone's asking me personally if I still feel that way and how I would justify that. Even with the number of shares out there, yes, I still feel that way. You may ask why. If you take a look at Marvel, yeah, they've been around for forever, but I was there when Marvel was going through its rough times, through its bankruptcy. I got the bankruptcy letters while working at Marvel, and you know, they had pretty much years after that sold the rights for the most part to all of their top tier projects. You know, Spider-Man is held at Sony. Fox has all of the X-Men properties. Those are the big guns at Marvel. That's akin to their Batman and Superman. You know, when I was working at Marvel, the top 10 books in the entire industry were the X-Men books. Literally all 10. There were 10 titles. And Spider-Man was not far below that. So by the time it came to them doing anything, like most of their stuff, most of their licenses were gone, out there, spoken for. The only other real big name as far as the world was concerned was Hulk, and it had awful movie. So wasn't a huge success. So meanwhile, we look and we see that what happened years later, Marvel began tapping into the rest of its intellectual property. And they had some great successes, and that attention of Disney, who in turn purchased the company for what was many believed was a steal at $4.7 billion. It was a steal. Now remember, all their good stuff was out. They made peanuts on the other deals, the other comic deals. So to realize that what did Disney see in Marvel? You know, it was all these lower. Nobody knew who Iron Man was when the Iron Man movie came out. Very few people knew who Captain America was. Thor, the Avengers. These were not household names. They were good intellectual properties, though. That's the importance here. That is why we've always defined ourselves as an intellectual property development company. That is what we do. We develop intellectual properties. We've got a large library, and it's growing. And we build audiences through the use of free content, and we capitalize than on those audiences. So looking at Marvel just as an example, do I think we can be a multi-billion-dollar company? Absolutely. That is my personal belief. This is not from the board. This is not from an official statement from the company. Someone's asking me my personal opinion, and that is my personal opinion. I do still believe we can and will be. And that is what I work for every day, to achieve that recognition, to achieve that success for all of us. So I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank you all for your questions. Feel free to keep sending in questions. I'm going to do my best to be more communicative on Facebook and so forth. Sorry I can't individually answer you guys' questions in emails, just because I don't want to have any insider types of things. We will be doing more and more marketing as time goes. And you better believe there's a lot of stuff in store that we will be revealing. If I have to end up doing these things once a week, we will. You know, now that things have opened up and we know a little bit more, we do plan on speaking more frequently. So I appreciate all of you guys and hope you have a happy holidays. Thank you.